Welcome to the Spinoso Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Alex Spinoso. My experience is in developing and growing all types of medical companies to 7, 8, and even 9 figures. And this isn't a podcast telling you what you should do. I'm just telling you how I did it. I want to help you build your business, take ownership of your life, and become a better leader at home and at work. And as always, we have the amazing Amanda May. We're revisiting something today. What are we doing today, Amanda?
We're going to revisit the principle of buying back your time. This is something that you have hit even more recently and lately thinking a lot more about how to buy back your time. And you've said that, as your business has grown, you've completely rethought about how you value your time because it's the only thing that you can't make more of. So you can make more money, but you can't make more time. And you've talked about Dan Martell's book, Buy Back Your Time, and what you're realizing lately is that buying back your time goes a lot further than just tasks and somebody running social media or, you know, the the small things, but it's sometimes creating entire roles within your organizations and thinking bigger about how you can step back, truly lead, scale, and cast the vision for what you're creating. And that buying back your time is a lot bigger than what a lot of people start out doing, which is just kind of offloading some of the small things. So, we're going to dig into that more today. We're going to revisit this topic because it's hitting you a lot more lately. And so, I want to know about why and how, and what that means for you. And then creating value for our listeners. How do you get to that level as well?
Let's do it.
Awesome. So, time is the only currency that you can't refill. It's not something that you get more of. Once it's gone, that's it. And that's a little cliche. We all hear that, it's like you can't make more time, but it's true.
Yeah.
It's true. And it's not just cliche, like actually connecting with the fact that what you're trading your time for has to create immense value. So in your own life right now, where this is coming to the forefront again, what's happening?
One of the biggest things entrepreneurs have trouble with is spending money. And I get it because every single dime that you're earning, you're trying to track. You're trying to figure out, okay, I'm making this much money, and if I make this much money, I'm going to hold it tight to my chest. And I've been there, but what you have to start looking at is at that point you're saving dollars, you're not saving hours. And like you said, time is finite. Your hours are what generate the dollars in the first place. So you need to start looking at sourcing or outsourcing certain things in your life that buy you back hours of your time. That could be something as simple as where you buy your meals from and meal prepping during the week. It could be something as simple as buying some home weights or weights off of Facebook Marketplace for your home gym. It could be something as simple as a nanny or somebody like that, a few hours a week to come into the house and maybe not take care of your kids. They don't have to be a nanny. They could be a house manager. They could come in and do the laundry, clean the house, mow the lawn. Those are all things that take hours, but at the same time, you are, if you pay someone else to do that, yes, you're paying the money, but that frees you up those extra hours to actually work on things that will provide you more dollars. If every if you have 1 hour and you are earning $20 an hour or $25 an hour, and you can pay someone $15 an hour to do a job, then you should pay that somebody 15 hours and $15 an hour to do that job and work that extra hour. Guess what? You're $10 up on your money. You made a profit of $10. And most people think, well, okay, well, if I just worked, then I'll make a profit of $25. No, 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 no. Because you're actually replacing that hour of work with a $15 an hour job. So you're only making truly $15 when you do that job. And that's what people don't think about. They believe that they can do the hour of work and the hour of laundry at the same time. No. And studies have disproven that. And I think there was a study that came out that said a person who does their own laundry does on average 8 hours of laundry a month. So 8 hours. So a full day, you are actually doing laundry. That's crazy. Think about just going and making your normal hourly rate for a full hour,
And then you
for a full day.
add 4 kids to that,
Yeah,
and I
and then
can't
we'll
even
add for
imagine.
well, add for our kids the amount of laundry is probably stupid, but just simply, if you're doing your own laundry in a month, you're doing laundry for 8 hours, and that's folding because, again, "Well, I put it in, it takes 2 minutes." Okay, cool, but you're folding it. Unless you're taking it out and dumping it in a drawer, then it probably doesn't take 8 hours, but 90% of people are fucking folding it, and I'll tell you, folding takes fucking forever. It just does. And you can watch TV during it, or you can listen to a podcast during it, but that's not real work. And so you think about it that way, when you start to think those things out, mowing the lawn. Unless you really love mowing the lawn and it helps you think better and it helps you do, work better, whatever, mowing the lawn is another job that you can hire out for $10, $15 an hour. You could have a lawn guy that comes and does it. And guess what? During that hour, you should be working. Buying back your time in this concept, guys, and we're going to talk about this the whole episode, is that when we're saying buying back your time, when we're saying paying somebody else to do these jobs, that doesn't mean that the time you get back, you're just sitting on your ass doing absolutely nothing. That means the time you get back, you are working in your job or working at a higher level that is paying you to be able to pay for those things. That's the concept we're talking about here when it comes to that. It's making your money work for you. And so the question I have to ask myself now, what is the best and highest use of my time? The best and highest use of my time is not making my bed. It is not cooking my food. It is not driving to grocery shop. It's not at all. Like, the best and highest use of my time is working on the businesses that make me money, and therefore I could pay for those things. I could pay my for nice things for my family, and I have the time to do the good things with my family. And I will tell you, more often than not, entrepreneurs, especially female entrepreneurs, get flack for, like, not doing all the housewife shit, cooking, cleaning, all the housewife shit on top of their business. And ladies, you just gotta fucking ignore that shit. Like, my parents were also, God love them, but they worked through everything. They worked their ass off through everything and did all the homework, and we never had, like, help in the family. But at the same time, and when we started to get help, a nanny and stuff like that, they're like, "Oh, you don't need a nanny. You just suffer through it. You just do it." And it's like, "No, you fucking don't. There's no fucking way. There's no way." And then they came and took care of the kids for like 5 hours, and they're like, "This is fucking exhausting." And I'm like, "Yeah, exactly." But it's the same in your life too. It's the same with doing what you're doing, where it's like, can you afford if you're making $20 an hour, can you afford someone to come in for $10 an hour and do all your dirty dishes or do some meal prep for you or whatever? Yeah, you can afford that. You have to do the math to figure out where it's worth it to spend on these things versus where it doesn't make sense and you should still do them.
When did this really click for you?
Mm, I would say when I started to listen to other entrepreneurs make everything into a math problem. Like, every decision that I try and make now is turned into a math problem, and we had a whole episode about this. We're running your life off of data. Everything I do now, I try and make into a math problem as much as possible, and that really clicked maybe a year or 2 into business, and it really, really clicked when my kids were born. If I was, quote, unquote, what society calls the best dad on earth, the person who is there for every little thing of your kid, every little episode of them walking or whatever, we would not have what we have now, and the business would not be where it is now. It's just the reality of that conversation that you have to have with yourself, is that you're going to have to sacrifice some of those things to get to the next level. You have to. And it's doing the math in your own life and saying, "Okay, I make this much money, and I can pay for this much childcare, but during that childcare, I need to work. I need to get to the next level. Like, buying back your time isn't buying back the time so you can go on vacation. Buying back the time is buying back the time so you can work more. And it sounds terrible, but if you want to get to the next level of income, that's what you have to do. Absolutely. And there'll be a time where your money is working for you and you don't have to work that hard. But again, I'm not there yet. And most people, if I'm not there yet, I guarantee 98% of people are not there yet.
Is that how you evaluate if something's worth your time or not?
Mhm.
Just the math problem?
It's really a math
Anything else
problem.
go into it?
No, it's a math problem. Like, we talked about relationships and stuff like that. If I'm going into a meeting and there can be mutual benefit here for the business, then that's the only reason why I take the meeting. If it's just to hang out or talk or whatever, there's no reason for me to take a meeting with you. There really isn't, because I have a finite amount of time, and every hour I take away from my life is an hour that I won't get back forever. And it's an hour that could have went towards my kids. An hour that could have went towards my business, making a little bit more money. It's an hour that could have went towards the companies to grow a little bit more so there was more opportunity for the people in my company and the people who are on my team. So that's exactly how I do it. That's a practical way of figuring out and evaluating worth whether something is worth your time. 100%.
There's something recently that you delegated that you hadn't delegated before, and you're, like, realizing the shift that that's created for you because you decided to do it?
I think I don't think there's anything recently that I've done, but I think the biggest things that I've done is try and automate or outsource all the little jobs in my life that I don't really need to be doing. Like, I don't really need to be cooking. I don't really need to be driving the kids to school. Like, and Steph helps a lot. She does a lot of these things, being a stay-at-home mom, which is a horrible job, terrible job. It is so hard, but she does those things for me, so I don't have to. Mowing the lawn, doing the pool, shocking the pool. Even so much as if I have to have a car worked on, I get a tow truck to just drag the car to the shop or and deliver the car back. 'Cause I don't have time to drive an hour to where the shop is and then an hour back. That's 2 hours. My wife and I left to go to the shop the other day, and she's like, can I follow you to drop the car off?" And it took 4 hours. And it was a realization of like, This is dumb. Why am I doing this at this point?" It was that was, I guess, the most close realization is that having somebody literally take my cars to get the oil changed or to get worked on, because I love cars, it's one of the things I love to do, is it's a waste of time for me to do that. It's better for somebody else to do it. And that may sound disconnected from reality, but that's where my reality is right now. It didn't used to be that way. But if you're just starting out as an entrepreneur, it's, things as little as doing your own books, if you're doing your own financials. Like, you can probably pay someone a few hours, and they'll probably do it 10 times better than you because that's what they do all day long, and give you better financials than you could ever all day long. So, those are little things that you can do in your business. I mean, simply meal prepping as well. People go and look and say like, "Oh, man, it's $8 to $10 for a meal if I buy it from a meal prep company, like a quality meal prep company, it's $8 to $10." Okay, cool. So if you can cook 1 meal and you can pay for 2 others a day, that's $16 a day. Let's just call it 16 to $20 a day for 2 meals that are just bagged, and then you can do a protein shake, and then you can cook 1 meal a day. So all in, you're in for $25 a day. And if you're making $20 to $25 a day, it's gonna take you more than an hour to cook any type of food, especially 2 meals, 2 separate meals. It's gonna take you more than an hour. So, it's just a trade-off. And it's a math problem.
Yeah, and what I hear you saying is it starts small. Like,
Yeah,
buying back your time starts small, and
absolutely.
we're gonna dig in a little bit more to how it that develops into much bigger things.
Yep.
But, so far what we've been talking about is the reality that buying back your time starts small. And I think this is a mental leap for a lot of founders, entrepreneurs, because like what you said, people are thinking, well, that's going to cost me, but it's not actually costing you if what you're doing with your time during that buying back your time and having somebody else do it means that you're able to make more than what you're paying out. You're still up. And leveraging that is the math problem that you have to start with. How has that helped your way of thinking when it comes to scaling the businesses?
It's good, it's smart to start small. Like we said, pay someone to do your taxes. It's funny, my business partner in, charismatics, Vaughn, he has done a lot of his own taxes and done a lot of his own systems and never had a really good tax guy. He used like TurboTax or some shit like that. And I was like, "Stop being a fucking moron and use somebody who's really good at taxes." And he called me the other day. He's like, "Oh man, like I had Chad, he's my CFO and does my personal taxes in almost all my businesses. Shout out to ShipShape Accounting. You want his info, DM me. I'll get you his info, and he's taking on clients. But he's like, oh, like I'm gonna save whatever thousands of dollars working with him. Yeah, that's what happens when you use professionals, and you didn't have to do it. You didn't spend the time figuring out your own taxes. Are you a tax professional? No, you're not. So again, that's something small. That's something really small. Taxes, cleaning your office, maybe a virtual assistant to manage your calendar, or even do your social media. So we got editors that work on the team that are $10 an hour doing social media, and they're phenomenal at what they do. So that's the first layer is like leverage the little things that you can afford. And again, do a time audit. Figure out how much time it takes you to do everything you're doing throughout the day, everything you're doing throughout the week and throughout the month, and then make it a math problem. What is my hourly rate to do this job? What is my hourly rate to, I don't know, do something as stupid as wash dishes? Like, what's my hourly rate? Okay, it takes me 45 minutes or an hour a week to do X or mow the lawn. Okay, could I pay someone else during that hour to do the lawn, and I could work for an extra hour, which would give me an extra $25. That's what you should be thinking about. Look small. And it's the same in your business. It's real growth happens when you go beyond these little tasks and start to build the roles. Hiring the A player in your business might be expensive. It's going to be expensive if you hire the right person. But that person should be able to drive revenue that way outweighs their own payment. They're going to essentially pay for themselves. Those A players will more than pay for themselves in the long run. The tasks that you replace will buy you minutes, they'll buy you the hours, but when you have somebody in your role, that buys you the freedom. And again, the freedom to scale. When we started Genesis, I was the provider. I was the person who saw every single client. When I hired a provider to replace me, yeah, they were expensive, but that gave me freedom to go and open the second location and be the provider there. So then hiring a second provider allowed me to free up my time and then look to grow the other locations and look to focus on the business and not in the business constantly. If you are constantly outsourcing, but still having to manage everything in detail, then the problem is that at some point, you're going to just have a finite amount of decisions that you can make during the day. You're just going to consistently fall back. And so you have to make sure that these roles or these positions that you are hiring people into, you're training them up to do 90% of your job or 95% of your job, and they'll get to 100% at some point. And that frees up the extra time for you to do that. You don't have to do a one for one. It doesn't have to be, I hired this person and they're going to replace me for 40 hours. It could be, I hire this person and they're going to replace me for 10 hours or 15 hours. And then once they get better, then then they could do 30 hours. Then they could do 40 hours. So it's a stepwise fashion, but you always have to think of the next step to buy back your time. I mean, if you I have it on my phone every single day. I have it at the top of my phone, like, how would a billionaire act here? Just because that's where I wanna go, that's where I wanna be, so I'm trying to think, how would a billionaire act? Billionaire doesn't do their own shopping. They're not gonna do their own cooking. They're going to bring people around them if they wanna learn something or if they wanna work out or, again, food. Like, they're going to surround themselves with people who are doing this stuff for them. And again, if you're starting out small, you're not gonna be able to afford these things. I'm just saying you need to think at the next step of how the next person above you thinks. If you're making, 5 figures a year, okay, what does a 6-figure a year person do? If you're making figures a year, okay, what does a 7-figure a year person do? Like, what are they doing that I should be copying? That's what I ask, again, my financial advisor as well, or my tax guy. Hey, what do really wealthy people do? Like, who what does your wealthy, and because I can't ask, like, who's your wealthiest person and what they do, I usually ask, like, without telling me, like, what does your rich guy do on a daily basis? Because they deal with them all the time. Like, what is your wealthy person doing with their time on a daily basis, and where have they learned to automate their lives and their systems? Where have they learned to automate their businesses? And it's the same in your business. Okay, what is the company that has 50 locations doing versus you? What is the company that has 5 locations doing versus you? That's what you should be looking at and comparing yourself to, so you could take the good things that they're doing and put them in your business and put them in your life, and so you can get to that level.
How do you know when it's time to go from, like, contracting people out? Because we have agencies, like marketing agencies or even social media teams that are all, like, VA based. How do you know when it's time to start to build a role full-time and actually, like, within the business?
Mm. Again, at that point, it's a math problem. What mathematically makes sense? Because with your contractors, if your business is growing, then the amount of money that you're spending on contractors is going to grow. And once the scales tip and you're either spending 80% of what it would cost to bring that person 100% in-house. So that's kind of where Brent and I look at positions now. And we literally just came across this with our legal team, where we're spending enough with third-party legal teams. Just again, we're in the medical field, we're a big company, we need consistent legal just advice and conversations and stuff like that, and, checking of rules, etcetera, where we're already paying a certain amount to our legal team every single month, who's a third-party vendor, who again works for 100 different companies. We're spending the same amount as if we just hired a lawyer internally and they only worked for us 40 hours a week.
Then you could get a lot more out of them
And then you
too.
can get a lot more out of them.
Yeah.
You know them better, you can call them up at any time because they work for you, and I learned that actually from my good friend Michael Aquino, who runs Accesso Biologics, and I'm a partner in, is that he brought C-suite people on much faster than I did at Genesis, so I learned this from him, and that when you have somebody internally always with you or always next to you or always traveling with you or working with you, they even get answers much faster,
Mhm.
and you can move much
You
faster.
get a lot more out of
You
them.
get a lot more out of them,
Yeah.
and you get a lot more done, and you learn a lot more much quicker. And so, again, it compresses time when you have those people on your team. So, it's the same thing when it comes to these positions where you're looking to create full-time roles. It's like, how much money am I spending right now already going towards this direction? And what would it look like if I just brought that in-house? If I have a full team of people manning the phones and I would spend the same amount of money to have my own people man the phones, then why not just do it that way? Or why not just put AI systems in the place to do that?
Well, and I feel like it helps company culture too, because you don't have so many disjointed parts, like,
Yeah.
where departments aren't talking to each other. Because if you have a marketing agency and then you've got a legal agency and then social agency or whatever, like, they're not necessarily having meetings together. But if you have them all in-house, then you have a corporate team meeting. Now everybody's rowing the same direction, having the same conversations, and focused on the same goals, even if they're different departments,
Yeah,
which
100%.
you're gonna get a lot more out of people that
100%. If everybody's on the same page and they're doing the same thing, it makes it easier, and that's definitely one of the things going back to my legal team that we had problem that we're having problems with or had problems with, and where we had to switch legal teams is because we would get a different person every single time that came in and was on this legal team, and they didn't know our business, and they didn't know our culture, and they would just spout bullshit, and they had no idea what they were talking
I
about.
feel like,
And you
oh
just
my god.
got yeah, you just got frustrated every time you talked.
You're, like, going around the mountain
Yeah,
over and over and
it is.
over.
It's the same thing.
I
So
hate wasting time or, like, talking about the same thing more than once.
exactly. So bringing those people in-house makes it better because they're focused on you. They're focused on one thing and they're really good at that one thing, which will help you grow. And it buys back your time. It buys back your time with your vendors. You're not having to speak to your vendors 6 times about the same thing. Repeat yourself 6 times about the same thing. So that's a huge part. You're hiring those people not to save money. You're hiring those people to multiply time. Those people
Which makes you way more money.
those people will make you money. 100%. Yes.
Yeah, I experienced this when I was asked to help get public beauty off the ground. We had different viewpoints. There was a I wanted to bring in an internal team to focus on influencer marketing, because that's what the product that's kind of the space the product was in before. And so, and so some of the other people that I was working with had a different viewpoint and they wanted to hire an agency. The agency was charging so much money. And I was like, for the $10,000 a month we're paying the agency to work on this with, like you said, 100 other clients, they don't have a focus on this. We could have, I mean, we could have 3 months of somebody in-house, like, yeah, anyway, so I did experience that and I'm definitely a fan of building teams internally as quickly as possible because I think that's where you build, momentum, uh, my personal opinion on that one. When you're talking about growing your business and buying back your time, what do you feel like was the best return on your investment? Not necessarily from, like, a P&L standpoint, but has there been a role or a position to this day that you feel like was the best return on your investment so far? I'm making this question up, by the way.
Hmm. Are we talking about business or at home?
I was
Like
talking
in the
about
business?
business, but
Okay,
maybe both
business.
would be
And
good.
then so I would say hiring a really good CFO to do the books for us, and to start to pay the bills, that is going to be probably one of the biggest buy back your time moments. If you can have somebody who's a controller, they're the people that, like, do your licensing, pay your bills, do your taxes, and then do the day-to-day, registration and bullshit, and that same person or another person, be your chief financial officer or, like, part-time CFO or part-time accountant, those things buy you back a ton of time. Because unless you really love numbers, which most providers don't, it's a shitty job to have to look at your financials, look at the P&Ls, look at the ins and outs and whatever. If you have somebody teaching you how to do that and doing that on a daily basis or at least a weekly basis in your business, that is going to free up so much time for you. So much time for you. I would say that would probably be the biggest thing in your business you can do. Obviously, besides replacing yourself as a provider if you're trying to build a second location. But if you're a single provider, having somebody do your finances and show you every single month where you're messing up, where you're doing well, that's a huge bonus.
That feels like it takes a level of transparency, though, and I think
Yeah.
that's a little scary for people because. you're really letting somebody into the pulse of your business.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you have to be okay with that level of transparency.
Yeah, if you're not okay with that level of transparency, you're retarded. I'm gonna tell you that right now. It's
Yeah.
stupid. You're stupid. You're
But a
stupid.
lot of entrepreneurs aren't,
Yeah, you're
which
all
is why
stupid.
they don't.
You're all stupid. I hate to say this is that the more that somebody like these people are not gonna steal from you. They're federally obligated literally to not steal from you or not stray you away. It's in their licensing. Like they go to federal prison for trying to steal from you or do any of that garbage. And obviously, you're not giving them full access to your bank accounts. You're giving them read only access and stuff like that. But like, look, people, you're going to need the more transparent you are about your life and where you are, the more people can help you out. Closed mouths don't get fed. If you're saying that you're killing it, guess what? Nobody's going to offer advice to help you. But if you're like, look, we suck here, I suck here, like I'm having trouble here, then people are gonna have advice. And maybe some of that is shit advice, but some of that's gonna be really good advice because people were probably in that position before. Like, for sure. They were in that position before. I've lived in a crack house. I have rented 100 square foot room and had all my belongings in it. So I've been there before. And people ask, how did you get out of it? Oh, I did X, Y, and Z. I remember it. The people who fake that shit, they can't tell you the exact details of how they got out of it. And I saw that in a interview question that Elon Musk asks to find out whether or not someone is full of shit. He asks, "Can you describe for me a difficult problem that you solved that helped the business or turn around some sort of issue?" And he said, "Those people who really solved a problem, they can tell you in ultimate detail how they did it, like what they were wearing that day, what happened. And those people who didn't, and they're just making it up, the details are super nebulous. They're super like all over the place. Like they're they're not. You could tell they're not telling the truth because they're not meticulously detailed."
Mm.
And it's the same thing where you can ask that's a good way to find out whether somebody's lying or not as well. Because if they actually lived a situation or went through a situation, you can literally ask them about the situation and they'll remember everything about that situation. If they're not, they're like stumbling, they're trying to make up things. They're like, "Oh, I don't really know. I don't recall. I don't remember." Like those are signs of the person's lying.
Mm.
Period.
When you're talking about everything being calculations and going back to data, how do you calculate your return on investment with someone like a director of operations or for Genesis sake, like VP of operations, where they don't necessarily have a direct return on the investment, but they help leverage your time more? Like, how do you calculate something like that?
I think it's gonna be a position like that is gonna be based off of one, what they're providing, and two, what are the intangibles that they're providing that you couldn't. So, how much do you think this person is gonna be able to grow your company? If they have experience in like our VP of operations growing a multi-location corporation, if they have experience in selling a multi-location corporation, well, then that is extremely valuable when it comes to the growth, when it comes to the ability to grow your company. So, looking at it that way, rather than it might not show up right away on the P&L because that's gonna be expensive position, but that person is going to be able to grow the company overall, make it more sellable, make it more scalable. And again, even if you don't sell, they're still gonna make that company scalable. Any company at scale is more sellable because people want companies that are more profitable no matter what. If I had a choice between a company that was profitable and a company that's not profitable, 99.9% of the time, I'm going to buy the company that's profitable. So, and that position is where you're going to be able to, or that's how you're going to be able to assess that position.
Yeah, so it's not necessarily financial, immediate financial, but it's tangibles that create long-term financial growth. So it's definitely a different way to look at it. One of the key things when we're talking about buying back your time is changing your mindset. And what that looks like is thinking like an investor and not an employer. What do the investors want to see? When you're talking about scaling and selling a company, what makes this company valuable enough for somebody to want to invest in it?
Yeah.
And you have to start thinking like that in order to buy back your time because that's what people are looking for. Because you're not selling you a job, like you're selling a company.
Yeah.
So somebody's not going to invest just to pay you to do your job.
And so l- I'll take this from two aspects of it. When you go to sell your company and you want to exit, if you are a single provider and you're running the business, then your valuation is based off what's called seller's discretionary income. You're the person who's driving the business, you're the person who's seeing all the clients. So when you sell your business, an investor is going to look at what is it going to cost me to replace you as the medical provider, and what that costs me to replace you gets pulled out of the net profits. It gets pulled out of the EBITDA. So if you're making, let's say, as a medical business owner, $150,000 a year as a nurse practitioner, you're running your own business. You're paying you're paying all the expenses, and afterwards you pay yourself 150K a year. Well, guess what? If you're the main provider, and you are, and I have to pay another nurse practitioner to replace you, that gets subtracted off of your net profits. So if you're paying yourself 150K and it's going to cost me 100K, let's say, to replace you, then the valuation of your company is only the difference. It's 50K, usually multiplied by 2 or 3. So the valuation of your company is literally 1 year's worth of earnings. And that's what people don't understand. They're like, "I'm gonna sell my company for 5x." No, you're not, because you're a single provider. So what you pay yourself gets pulled out of your net profits when you're looking at somebody coming to buy your business because they have to replace you.
Or like the replaceable amount, right? So if you
Yeah.
have a provider that's taking a very large amount of money,
Yeah, what's a very large amount of money? Because
I
I
don't
gotta be very specific here because most clinics are not. Most people are not.
know.
No.
Yeah. So in the case where somebody's taking over 500,000,
Okay.
you know.
So you'd be first before let's get realistic with this, you'd probably be 0.0001% of medical clinics, number 1.
Mhm.
But even then, yeah, if you're taking over 500K,
So the investor is gonna look at it though and go like, "Okay, to replace you, it would be maybe 100,000
no,
or
there's no way.
200,000."
There's no way. If you're making that much money in your business
Mhm.
and you're the main provider,
Mhm.
to replace you, it's probably gonna cost 200 to 250K minimum.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
again, it's based off of skill. It's based
True.
off of the ability of that person, and you gotta go find that person to replace the provider.
So what about in the case where somebody is staying with the company after sale?
Mhm.
Like, and they
Yeah.
don't necessarily have to replace you. You're gonna stay on, you're gonna continue to get your salary for a period of time.
Yeah.
How's that look?
You still gotta
Uh-huh.
pay. You still gotta pay that salary, right?
Mhm.
So, you don't own the business anymore. They bought the business away from you. So if they buy again, most of the time of those small businesses, they're buying 100% of the business, and they're gonna give you a salary. It's still valuation's the same.
Mm.
Like, what are they gonna give you? They might give you at that point the 3x.
So why would somebody add that in as profit? Because it's an expense. So why would an owner look at that as part of their profit?
Because they have 0 experience. They have
Mm.
0 know-how, and they think that that's real profit when it's not. That's why it's called SDE, seller's discretionary income earnings, SDE, and that gets subtracted. Even if you have a bigger clinic and you're doing EBITDA, again, if you're making 500K, it's gonna cost probably 200K to replace you. Your net profits, your EBITDA that you're gonna get valued is 300K because it's gonna cost me 200K to replace you.
So going back to the thought and the conversation around buying back your time,
Mhm.
how does that particular information connect with somebody buying back their time? Is it better to hire somebody else and you run the business and you're not the
Absolutely.
main provider?
That's the whole purpose, is that either you, join a larger group and get a higher multiple because you'll never get it as a single clinic or even as a dual clinic, you'll never get the higher multiple, or you scale significantly, or you replace yourself. Those are the only ways that you're gonna get more value and more money for your company. And it's funny to see people who just are like, "No, I'm gonna do it myself." Like, the earnings that I'm gonna make are gonna be the same. No, they're not, because you can work 10 years and you can get the same amount of money today joining a bigger group than than you would working for 10 years and then selling your company,
Mm.
all included. So would you rather have that money today where, again, compound interest, you put that into a bank over the next 10 years is gonna make a whole hell of a lot more money for you than waiting until you're 10 years down the line and then taking and ending up with the same amount of money, but over time.
Or you do like equity rollover,
Yeah,
and then 10 years down the road, you've
yeah,
got way more
yeah. If
than
you
what
do
you make.
math, I did math. What's crazy is I did math, this math the other day. If I taught my kids at the age of 5, and they might be young, so they won't understand. I think they'll understand it to a degree. If I taught my kids at the age of 5 and I started putting away $1,000 for each kid, that's it, $1,000 for each kid from the age of 5
Every month.
every month until they were age 50. So I taught them that, hey, like, all you gotta put away is $12,000 a year when you're working through your jobs or you're growing or whatever. And I get it, at the beginning, the kid's not going to make $12,000 a year. So you help them out at the beginning, but you teach them that savings, that compounding, that growth every single month. How much money do you think they'll be worth at 50 years with compounding interest?
Oh, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
I
It's
mean,
an ungodly amount of money.
yeah, I 10,000,000?
No,
More.
2.5 billion
Wow, oh
or
my
2.7,
goodness.
2.7 billion.
That's
$2.7
crazy.
billion dollars just on normal. I calculated it at like 11%, which is a very nominal, normal S&P 500. You just put it in there, $1,000 a month. Never more than that. Never less than that. Just $1,000 a month for 30 years, or for not,
50
not 30 years, 45 years
or
from the time they were 5
oh,
to the
okay,
time they
yeah.
were 50.
Okay.
$2.7 billion dollars.
Wow.
And so that's what I try and, teach business owners as well, that and definitely something that I've learned, that if you can get more money up front for your business, or again, you're building your business to sell. You're building your business to have the greatest valuation. And whether you keep it or not, if you build your business to have the greatest valuation, then it's going to have good cash flow. So you can keep the cash flow or you can sell it. Again, either way, you should build your business the same way. And that comes into account here, where you're trying to hire somebody to replace yourself or hire somebody to do these jobs, because you are hiring people to get your business ready to sell, whether you're selling or not, which actually frees up more time for you to work on the business, grow the business bigger, have more cash flow. So again, you are valued more, but even if you don't sell, you have more cash, which is the whole goal in the first place of building a business, right? To make money, to
Yeah.
improve people's lives. The more people you can help, the bigger your business grows. Guess what? The more money you make.
Yeah. Great book, Built to Sell is the
Yeah,
same, yeah, same
absolutely.
concept there. So good.
Absolutely.
How do you get comfortable with spending money on big hires when it's a stretch and you feel like,
You
I
don't.
can do this"?
Yeah, you don't get comfortable with it at all. You cringe with every fiber in your body and you're like, "Man, I hope this really works out." But you really make sure that the person that you hire, that you're stretching your dime for, is the right person for the job. You spend a lot of time figuring out who that person should be, why that person should fit in that position, how they're going to drive you forward, and then you go and find that person. That person doesn't just walk off the street. You have to chase them down. They're usually working for somebody else or for themselves. They're doing their own thing. That was our VP of operations. She was being recruited by other PEs while also, like, she had her own business. She's growing her own business. She still does have her own business and grow her own, coaching business in the med spa world. So, shout out to Aesthetic Practice Partners. That being said, although her salary is a stretch and it's nerve-wracking, like, the business can afford it, and we know, Brent and I know that she's going to
Mhm.
drive the company forward with what her passion is and what her drive is and how amazing she is.
Yeah.
Same with our chief financial officer. Like Andrew is phenomenal at what he does. He's pulling things out of thin air, organizing everything, getting the financials and things cleaned up even more than our last CFO, which was who was great. He's still great. He still works for with us doing the bookkeeping stuff. So there's going to be levels to your business as you grow. And you should always look to hire not the most expensive person because there's going to be people, there was people who we could have hired for the position or hired for head of sales that were way more expensive, but just wouldn't have the impact.
Mm.
You want to hire for impact. And then obviously that person's going to be just traditionally expensive in that position, but you're hiring for impact. You're hiring for growth and it's going to be, um, a little bit of there's gonna be a little bit of nerves there. I mean, multi six-figure job that we're hiring for that will probably turn into a seven-figure job with equity and stuff like that that
Mm.
they have. I mean, that's a huge job. But there are also jobs that I know my business part or not my business partners, but my friends have that they're we've hired positions in some of our other businesses that are seven-figure positions starting out. And they will turn into eight-figure positions at
Mhm.
some point. And I mean, there are, again, billion-dollar corporations that are multi eight-figure a year jobs. I mean, you look at the CEOs of these big companies, Starbucks, PepsiCo, et cetera, and people are like, "Oh, they make," it's ridiculous that they make $45 million a year, $50 million a year, and the guy on putting the tabs on the Pepsi can makes, you know, $16 an hour. Well, it's because that guy has the skills of $16 an hour and this guy has the skill of $50 million a year. It's a skill thing. And I'm sure this guy has gone through a whole hell of a lot to get to that position.
Yeah.
Or that girl has gone through a whole hell of a lot to get to that position. Unless it was inherited like the Waltons or something like that of Walmart. But again, even the Waltons, they all work their asses off. They have all grown Walmart from the beginning. Is different from somebody who's just handed a silver spoon and never grew anything.
Mm.
So that's what you have to focus on in your business is hiring those people and stretching that dollar a little bit extra for impact in your company. And it's uncomfortable. It's gonna be uncomfortable. But I can't imagine, like, it's gonna be awesome to be able to hire that first person who is like maybe just replaces me as CEO or COO who's making seven figures a year. Base pay. I mean, that means the business is doing really well that we had those opportunities to be able to provide for people. That's freaking cool. That's really awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and overall, it just means, you're making more because 'cause you're leveraging your time different, you're buying back your time, you're able to put focus on other things that are creating incredible revenue for you in other ways. How do you get your managers to think more like investors than just managers?
I would say this mindset is very difficult to try and train into your team. And so the way it's worded, I would say that you almost can never train your staff to think like investors to a degree. But what you can do is give them the skills to be great leaders under your guidance, under your management. And what I mean by that is that as they become leaders in your company, their most valuable contribution at that point usually won't be doing the work day to day, like going in and seeing the client and taking the money or treating the client. The most valuable work that a leader will have in those businesses or in our business will be guiding on, okay, you didn't we had these 10 consults and we closed 3 and you didn't close these other 7, so I'm going to guide you on how to improve your close rate. Or, hey, you need more training in Botox. I'm going to get you that Botox training to improve your ability to do Botox. Or hey, you're a clinic manager. These are the KPIs that we had to hit. You hit 4 out of 5. How do we get you to hit 5 out of 5? So, your most valuable contribution that these leaders will have that, again, start to act like an investor will be investing in people down the line. Will be teaching people down the line. Will be spreading their knowledge that they have down the line to lift everybody up. That's how you're going to get these people to think like investors is how do I bring as many people as we can with me on this journey? How do I get as many people packed onto the bus of winning or, a rising tide lifts all ships? How do I get all the ships lifted as much as possible? That's where they're going to be valuable. So teaching them to live like that and learn and teach like that is how you're going to get them to think like investors. 'Cause they're not gonna think like investors with their own money. Their own money is not on the line. And usually even equity shares that people have, if they have a little bit of equity share or something like that, they don't truly have equity share. What they have is really profit sharing. They benefit from all the good things and none of the bad things. They never have to pull any money out of their pockets to grow a business. Um, which again is an unfortunate learning situation, but most people don't want that. Most people want all the good things, but none of the bad things. They want the growth, but not the headaches that come along with it or the fear of having to pull money out of their pocket to pay for a business to grow. They don't. And so, that being said, uh, that's how you can teach your leaders to act like investors because investors are invested into everyone's growth around them, everyone's growth below them, the company growth. And they're consistently thinking of how can I grow this company? And as a result of that, just simply thinking of how I can grow this company has to involve the conversation of how do I grow the people? How do I grow the people to grow the company?
And having at each level, the people being able to identify if they can buy back their own time
Yep.
too. I have fallen into the mindset, uh, a lot less these days, but I'll do it myself. I'll just do it. I'll just do it. I'll just do it. And recognizing that that is actually hindering my growth and capping what I can accomplish. And so getting into the mindset of like, no, I have a team for that. I have people that can handle that. I don't have to do that. Building and scaling means having a team that can support some of those other tasks so that I can be focused on strategy, scale, things like that. Ultimately, what we're talking about here about buying back your time goes back to freedom's the goal. That's the test of all of this goes back to freedom being the goal of buying back your time. And that doesn't necessarily mean you're gaining freedom to sit on the beach and drink Mai Tais.
Yep.
It's the freedom so that you can put your time and attention and skill into something else that is going to either scale or grow the business. I mean, or give you peace, of course, if you want to take a vacation and have Mai Tais on the beach. I'm not knocking you for that, but it's not about buying back your time to do those things. That may be a reward when you have scaled your business to a point where you can take a little trip and have a Mai Tai if
Yeah.
that's what you desire. But ultimately, freedom is the goal
Yeah.
of buying back your time.
Yeah, and that is exactly what you should be focused on doing in your business. What are the steps that you can take where you can walk away and I've talked about it before, do the death test where you say, "Hey, I'm dead. I can't help you out. Figure it out yourself." I mean, you'd be surprised how much shit people just figure out themselves.
Mhm.
And then you'll realize, well, damn, you go away for a week or you do the death test for 4 days and nothing really hit the fan and there were no ridiculous fires that you had to put out. You realize you're kind of useless in your company. And then that's a good thing.
Yeah.
The next step is, okay, how can I make myself useful? How can I drive the next level? How can I grow the next level? Because if you're not growing, you're dying. You can't just sit on your hands because there's going to be some downturn in your business. But that's just it. It doesn't make you freedom doesn't make you a better leader in work. It makes you a better father, a better husband because you could show up for those things, a better human being because you can go out and do more things with the money that you have. You can donate more, you can provide, you can solve more people's problems with money. You can. And, again, people say, well, money doesn't buy happiness. Okay, that's cool. Have you ever starved before? Because I have. Yeah, you gotten hungry before? Because I have. You're not fucking happy. Trust me, you're not. Um, so money does solve problems. That's the reality. And again, if you're not building your business to make sure that it's sellable or joining people where you can have a more sellable business, then have the reality conversation with yourself and realize that when you go to sell your business, you're not going to be valued very much because all that money that you think that you're saving doing it all yourself, it, you're going to get devalued on. You are. And that's literally what happened with Genesis when we went to sale the first time is that we were being devalued like $7 million a year because with how big we got, that's how many executives private equity felt like we needed. $7 million worth a year.
Wow.
Yeah. And again, that's at a large scale, but let's take it down to a small scale, like we said, with the one provider in one clinic. Like you don't get if you're making 150K a year and you stay on and they have to pay you 100K a year, you don't get 150K times 3. You still get the 50K because they're paying you times 3.
Yeah.
That's the reality of this world. And so many people are in for so many people are not only in for a world of hurt, but so many people deny the fact that that's what they're worth. They think they're worth a ton of money.
Well, that's what I went back that's where my question came back to,
Yeah.
like, hiring a CFO,
Yep.
you have to be transparent, and that's the thing, I think people and we talk about this in another podcast, have this ideal of what they think things are, but they're not looking at the data of what it really is.
Yep.
So
It's
so
just gonna suck for them in the end.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
gonna come like there's gonna be people that make those decisions and you're like, have fun, idiot,
mm,
because all you did was shoot yourself in the foot and you're gonna learn. And when you learn and if you come back, I don't want you on my team. Absolutely not.
mm.
Like, because you made stupid choices instead of actually making choices based off data. And it goes back to that as well, which we've talked about.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, we have.
absolutely.
How's the idea of freedom changed for you since you decided to jump into entrepreneurism?
Mm,
You didn't tiptoe in, like, you jumped
no,
in.
no. Like,
How's it changed?
I would define freedom as the amount of money that I make is not in someone else's hands. So that isn't that I don't have to work. It isn't that there's a certain dollar amount that's going to give me that freedom. Is that no matter how much money I make or how big the business is, I don't have to rely on someone else for how much money I'm going to make. It is I, by the sweat of my brow and the strength of my back, the amount that I can work, the amount that I push is going to be directly proportional to the amount of money I make. And again, business owners and people don't understand that. Like you can make 150K a year working in a hospital and you making 150K a year working for yourself is going to be 10 times as hard. So do you truly want this life? Do you want to truly do that? And then it's realizing that 98% of people should not run their own business. 98% of people should not be business owners. 98% of people should not be running or organizing anything. They are really good at being an entrepreneur, and that's okay. But all these people think that it's easy to run their own company, run their own business, and making 150K, like I said, in your own business is 10 times harder than just going to work for someone else and making 150K. 10 times harder. No doubt about that whatsoever. No matter what field you're in, could be any field on earth. It is 10 times harder for you to make 150K in your own business than it is to just work for someone else for 150K. And so having that conversation with yourself and saying, okay, what do I want? Do I want the freedom of not having someone to pay me, not having someone like to rely on? Because that's a whole world of uncertainty. And if you don't like uncertainty, guess what? You should not be a business owner at all because it is a world of uncertainty every single day. You're battling outside forces that you can't control and trying to navigate them. So, do you want that life? Do you want that world? Or do you want the certainty of making that money? And again, like I said, CEO of Pepsi or CEO of Starbucks, they make $50 million a year. So it's not like you can't make multiple eight figures worth nine figures working for someone else. At the end of the day, though, you don't have to go home and continue to work on the business. So that could also be freedom. I guarantee the Starbucks CEO making $50 million a year has some damn freedom, has some things that nobody else can buy.
Yeah.
For sure, they got freedom. The best vacations, flying private everywhere, for sure they have freedom. But at the same time, do you want to build something yourself? It's really just a question, and that's what I define freedom at this moment. That might change as I get older, for sure. But we'll find out. The moment you stop trying to do everything and you trust people to own those roles, that's when you become a real leader. That's when you become a real CEO. And that's when you have real freedom. That's when you really buy back your time. But you can't do it without people. Nobody is self made. No millionaire is self made. No multimillionaire is self made. No billionaire is self made. Although there might be nowadays the AI billionaire, which is like one dude programming and that has $1 billion business. But up until this point, there hasn't been anyone who has been self made in that. And there won't be anyone in our field, medical,
Mhm.
that is self made at that point. There is always someone who has taught someone before them. And so it's deciding what you want and then going for it.
Yeah, and I love that you said it starts small, for the people listening that are solopreneurs, single operating providers, recognizing that buying back your time does sometimes start small and it's one step at a time because your business is run based on the systems that you build if you want to scale it. And the best businesses aren't built necessarily on stress, you thinking you can do it all on your own. So start somewhere, start small, do what you can with what you have, where you're at, and take those steps to start to buy back your time so you can see what else you can actually create. You got to believe that you can create something amazing in that time you're getting back.
Well
Well,
said.
believe in yourself.
Well said. So, guys, if you like this, please share it. If you need more information or want more information or join our medical mastermind where we teach a lot of these concepts and help you with your business, go to joincharismatics.com. You can always DM me at Dr. Alex Spinoso. Go to our website, dralexspinoso.com. Thank you guys, and we'll see you next time.